Welcome to the latest episode of the Autumn Windbags. We're recording this post-game right after the Raiders fell to Indianapolis Colts, dropping to 7-6. We actually recorded this after the game, but before the news that Paul Guenther was fired. So imagine in your mind, take yourself back to that brief period between the end of the game and before we got the glorious news that Paul Guenther was gone. Still, we talked mostly about Paul Guenther, that atrocious defense anyway. This episode of the Autumn Windbags is brought to you by the Fight Exchange. Get all your gear at thefightexchange.com. Here we go.
I got a dream of winning a Super Bowl. I got a dream of being in a Pro Bowl. I'm really not into dreams anymore, okay? I'm into nightmares.
There it is! Caught! Touchdown! Raiders!
You're listening to the Autumn Windbags, an audio attack from the Silver and Black. Here are your Windbags, RJ Clifford, Juan Soto, Rory Parsons. Hey, this is RJ Clifford, and my next pickup line is, don't worry, baby, I'm not afraid of commitment no matter how bad things get. I've been a Raider fan for over 2 decades.
Hey, what's up? This is Soto, and the Raiders reminded me of my last Tinder date. Neither one of them showed up.
What up, guys? It's Rory here. I wish I got paid for doing absolutely nothing like the homie Paul Guenther.
Yes. Once again, the Raiders fall. The Indianapolis Colts put up 44 points. The Raiders put up 27 at home. Now dropping to 7-6 as a squad. And guys, it seems like every single week, someone on the opposing offense has a career game against the Raiders. Last week, it was Sam Darnold, and today it was Jonathan Taylor rushing for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns on just 20 carries.
Yeah, man, it just seems like the discipline on the offense. I don't think we had any pre-snap penalties, very few holds. The discipline with the routes and Carr and handling all the pre-snap shit it's non-existent when it comes to the defense.
Yeah.
And it's just huge play after huge play after fucking huge play. And these middle of the road guys are just feasting. And it's fucking sickening.
Yeah. I mean, piggybacking on that, it's a sad day, boys. We had to watch the Raiders defense. We kind of figured out Phil Rivers would be doing his dink and dunk. We know that they would try and run the ball on us. Last week, we really didn't think the Jets would try and run the ball on us, especially when they were down in the game. We thought that they were selling out to try and get pass rush going. This week, it was both. It was 0 pass rush on Phil Rivers and couldn't stop the run.
So the Colts, they average about 100 yards a game rushing. They doubled that against the Raiders. And I was just shocked that they didn't run during the late second quarter, mid third quarter. The Colts kind of got away from the run a little bit. And I was shocked. I'm seeing an empty set with just Phillip Rivers. I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh, and then Rivers will beat us. He didn't have a crazy game, 19 of 28 for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns, but no turnovers and no sacks, despite the fact that the Colts offense was on the field for ever. Now, they only had 9 drives, same as the Raiders, but they just scored every single time. Of course, the pick 6 at the end just dumped on us.
Not only is he old as shit, and even when he was young, even if when he was 6 kid Phillip Rivers, you know what I'm saying? When he was younger, he still couldn't fucking move.
Young and spry.
Yeah, and now he's got that fucking toe. I don't know what the hell's wrong with his fucking toe. But old as shit, wasn't mobile when he was young, and he's got a toe injury, and we couldn't touch him. We couldn't even fucking sniff him. It was my worst nightmare going into this fucking week. We couldn't get any pressure on Rivers. I don't think we even knocked. We knocked him down one time, I think. And this is what happens. Our secondary's out there for a long time trying to cover these guys, and they're not the most disciplined group out there. And they get beat, and they make mistakes, and they miss tackles. And they blow assignments, and they knock themselves out, and who the fuck else knows what?
Yeah, why don't we just blitz a DB every single play? Because we're not getting pressure. It's not like they can cover anybody. Might as well just send Abram just hair on fire flying into the backfield because he's gonna blow coverage anyway. Might as well have him blitz.
Yeah. I mean, so the nickel blitz, the overload blitz, the kind of Paul Guenther staples that we keep seeing, it's amazing to me that they don't disguise them. Yeah. You know what I mean? If anyone turns on the Raiders tape, you know what's coming. You saw that with the Colts play call in today. There was a couple of checks that Phil Rivers made to check away from where the blitz was obviously coming. One of them being the Jonathan Taylor run that went for 62. Believe it or not, Max Crosby was playing coverage in that play.
Yeah.
You wonder why the hole was so big. We got Max Crosby playing zone coverage.
And you don't think fucking Rivers saw that shit?
Yeah.
He audible to that play specifically. It's like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck, Gunther? What are you doing? The fucking
They
gun.
punted once today. They had to punt once today. All day, we got them off the field once. And honestly, what's crazy about this to me is it wasn't just the typical characters that were struggling. Trayvon Mullen had a bad day today. Not only, I've been crying out for him to play more man coverage. He actually played some man coverage today, including press. He got burned on the out route by T.Y. Hilton. That happens. Great receiver. He gave up on that shallow cross early on in the game. And then the third down, if you want to look at turning points in this game, we had the Colts backed up to start the second half. It was 3rd and 5, I want to say, or third. I don't remember how long it was, but it was a third down. I think they were right around their 10-yard line. And Trayvon Mullen, defensive hold. He knows better than that. He literally, he didn't let go of T.Y.'s jersey, and it just kept going all day long.
Yeah, we had the numbers of the penalties. We had six penalties for 33 yards. It felt like a lot more than that. I mean, you had Abram doing that absolutely ludicrous unnecessary roughness early, which was ridiculous. And a couple other penalties of, encroachments and things like that. It felt like a lot worse, but we were doing great penalty-wise for the first 10 games of the season. The last 3 games have kind of fallen apart. It just feels like we gave up way more than 33 yards in penalties, but that's what it was. No pick, no interceptions, no fumble recoveries, and no sacks. I mean, we've been calling for Paul Guenther, the defensive coordinator's head, for a while. This was a stereotypical Paul Guenther gutter show, right? No pressure, DBs are lost, they're putting together long drives, converting third downs. I mean, this game should be in a museum. Like when Paul Guenther is in like the Fail Hall of Fame, put a giant frame around this game, and that's exactly why the Raiders have sucked the last 3 seasons.
It's bad fundamentals. It's poor play calling. It's ill-prepared defensive players. It's a lack of accountability. It's literally a punch list of why you would fire a guy. We're in year 3 with this dude. We've got more talent on this defense than we've had for the last 2 years. He's had the opportunity to install his system. He's had the opportunity to coach the system. He's had the opportunity to draft and sign free agents around his system. And in year 3, we've regressed against the run and the pass, objectively and subjectively.
Yeah, I don't think Gruden's going to let him go mid-season. Like I was saying to you guys during the game, that would be like him admitting he fucked up.
See, I tweeted this earlier. I almost feel bad that like John Gruden and how the offense has been developing is exhibit A on why you give a coach a long-term contract. So he's not desperate trying to win year 1, year 2. It's like, okay, I have something building here. I have a system. Let me develop. And the offense has obviously developed pretty well. It's the only reason we have a winning record at this point. But the part that I want to have almost switched around is I almost wish John Gruden was hurting for his job so he would fire Paul Guenther as a way to save face. So he's like, oh, man, I'm going to lose my job if I let the season fall away. Let me put it on Guenther and kick him to the curb. But he doesn't have that heat under him anymore, right? He has a 10-year contract, and Mark Davis loves him. And he's like just going to hold on to Guenther because he's his buddy. And it's like, well, why get rid of him now?
Does Gruden even like go into the defensive side of the freaking meetings or anything like that? Do you think he even does that shit? Because he's not, all buddy with the offensive people. He's all buddy with Carr. My best friend. This is my quarterback. He's my quarterback. And, he has the offense running the way he wants it. Great. That's fucking fine. They're just scoring, 29 points a game. Great. That's amazing. But your defense licks sweaty ass.
I think you bring up a really good point, and that's something that we don't really know besides putting together little bits and pieces here from what we hear in interviews. But how involved is Gruden in the defense? Because everything that I've heard has been along the lines of Paul Guenther being able to run the defense as he sees fit. He's almost, quote unquote, the head coach of the defense. I know that earlier on in the year, when things were going really bad and it was another statement loss, there was almost 100% on the defense. Gruden came out and said, it's unacceptable. We're going to change some things here. And then you noticed a lot of things different in how we were playing. We were blitzing more. We were moving Jonathan Abram around a lot more. We had that game against the Chiefs where we basically played prevent defense the entire time, just rushing three and having that spy. So they started to mix things up. And I think that was the first time that Gruden really stepped in and said, you know what, we're going to see major changes here. And that was right around where we think Rod Marinelli might have been given more of the reins potentially to at least have a say or like some sort of like collaborative process. But there's no way to justify this anymore.
I mean, I'm not really down to fire him right this second because I don't know if the alternative is going to be any better. I know it feels like a trained monkey could do better than Paul Guenther as the defensive coordinator for the Raiders, but it's like, all right, 13 games into the season, 3 left, hopefully a playoff game or 2. It's like, all right, just ride him out. But the day we step off the field in week 17 against the Broncos, if we don't make the playoffs, or the day we step off the field in our playoff loss, whenever it may be, whenever the last game is, like literally that second, Paul Guenther needs some goddamn walking papers. Like literally that second. Like as the clock's ticking in the fourth quarter, 3, 2, 1. I want like an intern or an assistant like in Gunther's hip pocket popping out, being, hey, Guenther, you've been served. Kick rocks. Like that. Let him write it out, but he's gotta be gone immediately.
I'm amazed he's still there. And honestly, I think that Gruden's lack of involvement in the defense makes it really difficult for him to move on from Guenther mid-season because, I mean, Rodman, I don't know. When it's a big game to him, right? His first season when they played the Bears, he really wanted to beat them, right? And he was involved in everything. In the offense, in the defense, they freaking faked a punt, like
shut down Khalil Mack.
Exactly. He had a game plan. When they play the Chiefs, man, he has a game plan offensively. He's a part of the game plan. That's not a Paul Guenther defense that they play against the Chiefs. Okay, and he's involved because the Andy Reid connection, so he understands what they're going to run. So he's involved in the defense. He needs to do that. He needs to use his offensive mind and what he knows of the other team's offense to help the defense because. Just as we're predictable on offense, we're 10 times more predictable on defense. And even though it seems like, okay, yeah, it's not that, sophisticated or it's not that complex, we still find a way to fuck it up.
I think it's tough to make the argument to fire Paul Guenther on a short week with the Chargers coming up on Thursday. In theory, we can still make the playoffs. It would be a pretty bold move. As much as I want Guenther gone right now, I wanted him gone at the beginning of the season. I wanted him gone at the end of last season. I'd be happy if he got fired right now. I feel like we have to move forward as a team, and it has to be without him. And if that's giving Marinelli the reins right now and seeing what Marinelli can do with a couple games, I'd be open to that. I definitely understand why it might not be realistic to expect him to get fired after this game with the playoffs still a possibility. But, I mean, if we drop another burger against the Chargers on Thursday night in Las Vegas, I know home field advantage doesn't mean too much right now.
Yeah.
But that was embarrassing what we just saw in Vegas against Phil Rivers. It should be his marching papers after this game. But for me, I'd actually like to see Marinelli before the end of the season.
Look, I can see both sides of the coin, right? Like one part of me is just like, all right, whatever little consistency we can keep just to close out the season, that's fine. Like he can't, like how much better could Marinelli be this quick, right? That much better. But on the flip side, like we've heard like little whispers, like Corey Littleton here and there kind of mentioned how they're unhappy with Guenther. I think Littleton mentioned something like, well, I can only, play into the scheme I've been given, things like that. And you guys know this, when players start to kind of whisper things about the coach or the locker room or the quarterback or whatever's going on, that's not isolated. Like that means it's boiling over. Like if a little whisper comes out, that means it's boiling over inside. That's not just one guy thinking that on a whim. This is something that's been talked about. It starts feeling normal. So it kind of, spills over the whatever vessel that it's in. So I could see the defense maybe playing a little extra inspired with Guenther gone, but I don't know. I feel like it's less just like they don't like Guenther as a dude and more just like Guenther just doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, it's like you guys may not know that I'm a big USC fan, and we beat RJ's UCLA Bruins this last weekend as well.
Congratulations! Look at that! Wow, wonderful.
Well, in their most most recent heyday with Pete Carroll, he preached competition. There's no one comes into any week having a spot. You compete for that spot, right? And he asked that same of his coaches as well. And I think we need that same mindset. And if the coaches aren't cutting it, the coaches got to fucking go too.
This is how.
Yeah, man.
So it's been a bad season, obviously, defensively. Their one big, like their good game defensively was obviously the Browns, and really bad weather. They held the Browns to 6. They held the Chargers to 26. And then after that, they've basically given up 30 or more points in every other game. 44 to the Colts, 28 to the Jets. That was the other time they didn't get 40. 43 to the Falcons, 35 to the Chiefs. Oh, and then 12 to the Broncos. So they've had, a 6, a 12, and a 28 against two of the worst teams in football. And that's just this season. This is how historically bad Guenther's been. Now, this is from Josh Dubois of the Associated Press. You guys want to play a little guessing game?
Let's do it.
So in the 3 seasons, not including today's game, but in the 3 seasons that Guenther's been defensive coordinator, the passer rating of opposing quarterbacks, 98.5. You know where that ranks?
Jesus.
Want to guess where that ranks?
Dead last.
29th.
Oh.
Yards per play from opposing offenses, 6.01 yards. Where's that rank?
It's got to be close to last.
31st.
Oh.
31st.
Jesus.
Takeaways, we've had 47. Where does that rank?
Oh, that's got to be last.
29th. Close to last.
Wow.
And then points per game, we've given up 28, and sacks, or not points per game, 28. Total sacks, we've had 60. Those are both tied. You want to guess where? Dead last. 32nd out of 32 games. This isn't like, Guenther's been off. Oh, we're overreacting to a couple bad games. This has been exactly what Guenther's been for 3 years. There's no secret. There's no guessing. There's no like, oh, man, this is a blip in the radar. Oh, everyone has a rough stretch. He has literally been, statistically, we've had the worst defense statistically the last 3 years with Paul Guenther at the helm. And that's despite number 1 draft picks, expensive linebackers, free agent acquisitions. No matter what's been done, and tons of turnover. There's only been one consistent thing in the last 3 seasons with this Raiders defense. Paul freaking Guenther.
The Gunt.
Now, in all fairness to him.
You said it.
Yeah. In all fairness to him, the Raiders were bad defensively before him too. But this is just over the top bad. What do you think Guenther blames this on? Like when he's doing interviews or like he's at home with his wife at dinner and, his Mrs. Guenther's like, so what happened today, Paulie? What happened today? What do you think he says? Do you think he blames it on Abram missing tackles? Do you think he blames it on personnel? I'm morbidly curious what Paul Guenther blames his ineptitude on.
Well, I'm eating. I'm eating. Yeah, these guys to miss tackles and they don't listen to me. I'm eating.
Soto's pissed when you're in a rough spot when you're getting fat jokes from Juan Soto.
Yeah, I'm fucking fat. If I call you fat, then that's a problem.
You're in a rough spot at that point.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I guess a couple bright spots. Derek Carr played well. He had 2 interceptions. Those weren't his fault. They were both from tips. 31 of 45, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns. He got his garbage time yards and touchdown at the end there like he normally does. He can control the ball pretty well, protect the ball pretty well. Again, like I bring this up every week, but the frustration that so many times I hear, it's like, well, the the Raiders can't win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr. Oh, Derek Carr's not the guy. It's like, I just told you, like, the defense is statistically the worst ever of the last 3 seasons. Derek Carr is like number 18 of 27 problems that we have on this team.
I'm crying. I almost wanted to throw up when Charles Davis with like 3.5 minutes left. Oh yeah, Derek Carr's still in there. Derek Carr's still in there, and he's going to pad his stats. You fucking kidding me?
100%. Here's the thing about Derek Carr.
Well, actually, that's not true. He that first pick was his fault. It was a little underthrown to Waller, but goddamn, that was an amazing pick by Kenny Moore. Like, that was the defensive play of the day,
for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or Chase Young running back a touchdown. That's a fumble. Did you guys see that?
I think that Moore pick was way better. Like, he's short and he got up higher than Waller, one hand in the end zone, and came down with it. That was nuts.
Oh, the cornerback for the Dolphins actually had a similar one-handed today as well. He's got 9 picks on the year. Serious defensive player of the year candidate. Mm-hmm. But anyway, here's the thing about Derek Carr. I was saying to you guys, we spoke about this last week with Derek Carr. Like, we were talking about the offensive line last week against the Jets. And the offensive line got beaten up. They were constantly, losing ground in their one versus ones. They weren't able to pick up the blitzes that the Jets were throwing at them. And Soto, you actually said, if you were comparing the defense versus the offensive line, who had a worse game? You said the offensive line had a worse game. Today, the offensive line had an incredible game.
Played great.
Yep. Incredible game.
It's crazy how much of a difference just one Trent Brown has on our line.
Seriously. Like, did Nico Autry, we were worried about him having a revenge game? Nothing. Absolutely stonewalled him. Same with Colton Miller on the left side. Again, Houston had 3 sacks last week. Didn't even get a hit. DeForest Buckner had 1 hit that I recall all game. Otherwise, offensive line was stellar. Carr had all day to throw. It was really disappointing, actually. Side note, CBS, no replays all day. So it's hard to know, exactly what happened. We're going to have to wait and watch the film this week. But Carr had all day to throw. And, the Colts play a lot of zone defense. You have to think a lot of our guys had moments where they were open. And more often than not, there was instances where we were forcing the ball into Nelson Aguilar. There was targets there that kind of bounced off of him. We didn't really see the replays to see if there were drops or just well-defended throws, but that was super disappointing. The third down in the red zone, we were texting each other saying, this is it. This is a huge turning point of the game in the second half. We need 7 here. And on third down, he throws an out route that goes 4 yards out of bounds. That play had 0 chance of success in that situation. That's poor situational football, and he was not under pressure. Like, why aren't we taking a shot at the end zone there? So Carr was not the reason we lost today, but at the same time, there was big moments where we came up short, and it wasn't because he was under pressure.
I mean, it's safe to say that, like, over the past few seasons, there are games we would have won if it was, Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers under center, right? Like, I think that's fair. But just, for right or for wrong, franchises are judged by their quarterbacks. And so every time the Raiders come up short or fall short or don't make the playoffs or have a losing record, it's like all the blame goes on Derek Carr. It's just lazy analysis, right? Like, there's plenty of ways Derek Carr can get better. But when you have like the literally statistically bottom 3 defense consistently, even Aaron Rodgers isn't going to take that type of team getting 10, 11 wins a season. Like, and Derek Carr's like kind of doing it, obviously with a great running back, an amazing tight end, phenomenal offensive line, like the whole offense. But the margin I've said it before, like the margin for error for this offense is so thin. Like, you can't have any turnovers. You just can't, like, you have to play perfect to be able to buoy this defense. Unless the defense gets lucky with some turnovers, they already start, like, they're not going to get stopped. Why don't we just have Daniel Carlson do onside kicks every kickoff, right? Just do it. Just give us a chance to maybe get the ball back, right? Instead of just like watching the defense completely fall apart and giving me a heart attack, just slit my throat early. Just say, all right, yeah, we didn't get the onside kick. Done. Okay, move on. They're going to score. We'll get the ball. We'll try again. Instead of like just slowly drowning in the pain of watching our defense.
You know what really bugs me about watching the Raiders play like they played today is little things really piss me off. Like this commercial again, like, God damn it. Like ulcerative colitis. Yeah, I have ulcerative colitis. You know how I know I have ulcerative colitis? Because I'm a fucking Raider fan. That's how I know I have ulcerative colitis.
Do you have crippling depression? Yes, because I'm a lifelong Raider fan. Thank you. That's what they should do. Those are the commercials. What's the depression? What's the depression drug that's out there? Xanax?
Sure.
Which one?
Xanax, right? They should have a Xanax
Cocaine.
commercial every like third, fourth quarter of every Raider game. Or just like cut a deal with CBS and Fox, or every time the defense gives up a touchdown, bam, Xanax commercial. Are you a depressed Raider fan? Is this defense going to drive you to an early grave? Have Xanax, and you'll feel a little bit better than you did without it. Boom. $1 million idea. That's for you, Xanax. That should be our first sponsor we go after. Xanax for the depressed Raider fan. Make it silver and black little pill.
They got to do it like the Bud Light cans where it's got the Raider emblem on there.
There we go. Yeah, but the Bud Light commercial. Are you a depressed Raider fan? Do you want to forget about this game? Drink Bud Light, and you'll be talking about getting touched by your uncle in no time.
What's the most depressing alcohol to drink? Is it like Night Train wine or like early times whiskey? I'm just thinking, like, what would I drink with bums under a bridge in a brown paper bag? That should be the Raider. That should be our first sponsor.
Old English,
right? Anyone have the number for Old English? I'm getting them to sponsor this podcast. Like, hey, we're a Raiders podcast. Everyone who listens to us is a Raider fan and therefore a borderline alcoholic from depression. Problem solved. We'll make you millions. All right, a couple other little like good spots. Foster Moreau, balling touchdown. I was texting you guys. Let's just give Jason Witten a clipboard already and have him stop taking Moreau snaps. Let Moreau develop. Let Witten be the team leader, the example, the smart guy. 17 seasons in the league or whatever it is. Like, let him just be that guy. Stop taking Moreau snaps.
Yeah, Moreau really impressed today. That catch and run, it showed honestly, he showed in the past couple of years, he's showed some athletic ability, getting as open as he did a few times, and some diving catches in the end zone. But yeah, I'd never seen that from him there. That was impressive.
Yeah, he's a great player. He's honestly, I think he would start on a lot of other teams.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at this offense, there's so many weapons. There really is. I mean, we haven't got into the guys like Brian Edwards. He's another guy that could start on a lot of teams and make some noise. Moreau is worthy of more snaps, 100%. He's a great blocker. He's obviously got talent as a route runner. He's got great hands. We've as a Raider fan, we've been crying out for him to see more snaps since the beginning of the season, and that's exactly why.
Yeah, I love so much what this offense is doing between, like we were asked, you've got a vocal leader in Derek Carr. You got the quiet leader in Rodney Hudson. You got the experienced veteran in Jason Witten. Like, the pieces are there. Like, our wide receivers are all young and just going to get better. Obviously Jacobs is young, only going to get better. Carr's in his prime. I mean, we're going to be as good as long as our offensive line stays young enough, right? They're getting a little up there in age. As long as they can like refresh that line, our offense is going to be fine. I don't know on the defense who's going to be our Jason Witten or Derek Carr or Rodney Hudson. Like, I kept trying to think, like, all right, who's the veteran? Who's the leader? Who's going to light some fire? They're all like first and second year players or free agents picked up that haven't done anything. Like, if you're Corey Littleton, do you have the gall? Like, do you have the nerve to be like, all right, guys, I'm your leader. Get behind me. When you're getting paid $33 million to like miss coverage of Travis Kelce.
Who?
He was never that guy.
The guy that should be the guy that has no name.
Yes.
I forgot it. That's the thing I'm doing.
Littleton was never that guy, though. I mean, he was never the vocal leader for the Rams. That's not the guy that we brought in to be a vocal leader. I'd say Nick Kwiatkowski, you hope to see a little bit more of that fiery leadership, especially from your middle linebacker,
Yeah.
What's disappointing, again, on the defensive side, this is kind of a sub-story, is the snap counts, the defensive rotations. We're actually subbing out Nick Kwiatkowski a lot last week instead of Littleton. and they were going with a package of Morrow and Littleton as opposed to having Nick Kwiatkowski on the field for all 3 downs on defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge mistake. Unless he's injured, there's a good case to be made that he's our best defensive player. And, Littleton has obviously disappointed. I'm a big believer that players don't get shitty overnight. I think a lot of it is the defense that they're playing in. It's their role within the defense. It's just comfort within their roles and responsibilities within that defense. And I think he's playing slow. But in terms of other defensive leaders, Jonathan Hankins is definitely one of the captains that you look at. Max Crosby is definitely one of the captains you look at. Unfortunately,
can Nicholas Morrow be that guy? I mean, I know he come from a Division III school, but he's playing so much better than what we expected. I just don't know if that's what I'm wondering what goes on an NFL team. Like, oh man, I'm a first round pick from Alabama, or I'm an undrafted free agent. Is that something are you going to listen to someone like Nicholas Morrow? Because he's producing, but he's kind of just like, oh, I'm shocked this guy's doing anything.
Yeah, I think you have to have the respect of your teammates, and you have to be a baller. You can't just be the best player on a shitty defense. You have to actually be that guy. You have to be that baller to be able to call people out and say, hey, listen, you're fucking up. You got to do this. You got to step it up because, hey, I bring in every play, right? And I'm the man on this defense. And that's what you have to be. Especially when you got a bunch of alpha males, you have to look at the alpha of the alphas. And that's the guy that needs to be the leader. And we don't have one. We don't have a dominant defensive player that can be that guy. We just have a guy that's the best on our team. When we're a bad defense. So what does that say?
Khalil Mack. Remember Khalil Mack? Remember that dude? He was our captain on defense, but he was never the vocal dude. He was never the vocal guy. He's never the guy that was going to tell guys and be the loudest and, get up and fire up the team. He led by how he played. Mm-hmm. We're the opposite right now. We've got the Jonathan Abram of the world and the Eric Harrises that play like shit, but they're vocal and they're getting the captain's badge. We need players that lead by example and ball out.
Yeah, that would definitely be nice. Anything else on the game? You guys need to get off your chest. Talked about depression, fire Guenther, need leaders.
I got one more. Carl Nassib, another sub-story, another healthy scratch for him today. So we're paying this dude $16 million a year. Sorry, $16 million guaranteed. So he's guaranteed a lot of money this year. He's guaranteed a lot of money next year. He's not getting cut anytime soon. Last week, he was a healthy scratch. That's what Gruden came out and said. You look at the snap counts. Max Crosby ended up playing all but 4 snaps. Cleveland Farrell played a ton of snaps. Vic Beasley only got 8 snaps. And Arden Key played a bunch. But long story short, when you're paying a dude that much money, he better be getting some game time. The fact that he was a healthy scratch for 2 weeks in a row when we've guaranteed this dude so much money, and we're struggling so obviously, not only in pass defense, but also in the run defense. And he's a pretty decent run defender. What is going on there?
You know who all these expensive free agents' favorite player on the Raiders? Marcus Mariota. Because no matter how bad your contract is, it looks better than Mariota's. $9 million to be a backup quarterback that's suited up for what? 2 games? 3 games? Nassib's like, oh yeah, you know, my contract, whatever. Marcus, look at that guy. You should look at him. Look how bad that contract is. He's everyone's favorite guy over there. Elsewhere around the league, obviously we lost, but we got a little bit of help. The Dolphins gave the Chiefs a little bit of a scare early. They got ahead, but Patrick Mahomes gave up 3 interceptions and had a 30-yard sack, and the Chiefs are still able to get the W. They win 33-27, which is great because it drops the Dolphins to 8-5, and we obviously have a date with them in 2 weeks. The playoff situation, I think we're technically still in control of our destiny, right? Because we got Chargers, Dolphins, Broncos. And if we beat the Dolphins, we'll have the head-to-head, and we'll have the same record as the Dolphins, and we'd come in as a 7th seed. Is my math right? Because no one can pass us if we keep winning, and we'd have the tiebreaker over the Dolphins.
What about the Ravens if they win? Or do they have the tiebreaker over us?
No, because they're still 1 game behind us. So if they win, they play Monday night, right? Ravens Browns.
Yeah, if we're all 10-6.
They're 7-5.
Yeah,
I guess they could go. They could go 11-5 potentially. Who's left on their schedule? But I feel like if we win 3, we should get in, right? They have the Browns Monday night, Jaguars. Oh crap! You know who they have left after the Browns?
Minshew's back though.
Jaguars, Giants, and Bengals.
Oh,
That's what they got left.
Whoa.
So
they could very well win the fuck out.
So we got to be. So everyone's gonna be giant Browns fans on Monday night.
Oh God!
I'm gonna buy a Browns jersey.
Oh my God!
That's not good.
Oh.
Okay, so this is the math I did on the playoffs 3 games ago. So after we beat the Browns, after we beat the Broncos, right? We beat the Broncos 37-12. We had the Chiefs. I thought, okay, we're going to be underdogs in 3 games, and we're going to be favorites in 3 games, right? We're going to be underdogs against the Chiefs, Colts, and Dolphins. And then we'll be favorites over the Falcons, Jets, Broncos, Chargers. So I thought, okay, we could lose one of the games we're supposed to win and win one of the games we're supposed to lose. We'll go 10-6 and should still make the playoffs. That could still pan out if we win out, right? We lost the Falcons, which we should have won. We're supposed to lose to the Colts. So if we could beat the Dolphins as underdogs and then beat the Chargers and Broncos like we're supposed to, 10-6, that should get us in. That should get us in. Not all those other wild card teams are going to go 3-0 to close out.
I hope so.
You guys don't sound overly optimistic.
I'm not. And you call me pessimistic, Soto, for a reason. It's because I try when I look at. I'm older than you guys, and I've had my heart broken by these guys so many times. So I try to say, okay, let me take an objective look at what's going on here. Did we just suck on these games, or this is who we are? And I told you guys with about 6 minutes left in the third quarter, we were driving and we were down 10. I said, all right, here we go. Or we were down 13. And I'm like, okay, we need a touchdown here. What's going to happen? Are we going to come back? Are we going to make this happen? Or is it going to be another Buccaneers Falcons game where we just let it go at the end because all this stuff just seems to happen to us at the end of games that we were right in. We were in that Bucs game. We were in we never were in that Falcons game. Yeah. But we were in those. We were in that game to win, and we just couldn't get it done. So who's it going to be, and who are we going to be? Are we going to be that team that gets it, that makes it happen? That despite the fact that we were outplayed and we played like shit and we turned the ball over, even though maybe when it wasn't Carr's fault, but missed assignments and getting blocked and not getting any pressure that we needed to. Can we turn it around mid game, and can we finish off strong because we're still close and make it happen? And we just shit the bed again.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's not the I don't even know the Renfro drop or the Renfro fumble. I think you'd still go back to Renfro in all of those scenarios, right? That's just a freak occurrence. It's a bad play. It happens. No one's really at fault. Obviously, Renfro's at fault.
Well, Renfro's at fault.
He's definitely at fault. Take that back. But again, you go straight back to in the next play. He's got incredible hands. It was a one-off, right? The ones that really live with me, that piss me off more than that, are the ones where, like Aguilar on the third down and goal, where we had a chance and we didn't take it, or the Mullen third and whatever, and he commits that ridiculous defensive hold penalty that he should know better on. It's that sort of stuff that I'm looking to John Gruden to pinpoint after the game in his press conference and say, those are the plays we need to get rid of more than anything. And that's my job. That's my responsibility. And we're going to do better. But you never really hear that sort of hyper-focused attitude to accountability and mistakes.
So is this team? So this is the other hard part. Like, obviously, we're all in the same boat. Paul Guenther's got to go, whether it's 5 minutes ago or 3 games from now. He's got to go eventually. Is the personnel is the core personnel in place on our defense? Because I think we can all agree, like, we can always upgrade positions on offense. You can always use more depth in the offensive line. Is Devontae Booker our third back? We need a different backup quarterback that's not so expensive and is actually available. Like, we can nitpick things all day long, but I feel like the core personnel is there on the offense. This is what's hard about the defense, though. Obviously, it needs to be drastically improved, but where do you start? Our DBs are all like first and second year first rounders, mostly, right? Our defensive ends, like, Crosby and Farrell, like, do we cut those guys? Do we hire, do we pick up a huge guy for that guy? I mean, our linebackers are all expensive other than, 2 of our 3 linebackers are super expensive guys. Like, do we eat that dead money? Like, how do you, other than like personnel wise, what do you do to fix the defense?
The hard part is because of just schematically, a lot of times these guys aren't lining up properly. It's hard to pinpoint who needs to go and who can stay. Because right now it's like, okay, you don't have an idea. You don't have any idea who's just can't play or who's not being put in the position to succeed. It's hard to make that call right now because I think right now, and he's so predictable, and I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say right now.
I agree, but I think there's some obvious ones. I think free safety has to get better. Has to, period. I think that's a really obvious one. Eric Harris is not the answer. Great dude, great depth, but not a starter in this league. I think Nick Kwiatkowski, again, is basically a Pro Bowl type talent. Max Crosby, Cleveland Farrell, I think they're awesome. If anything, we've really missed Benson Mayowa's 7 sacks this year, so we've got to get another pass rushing option behind them. But we can't commit more money to that position. We've already got Nassib tied up. I think our interior pass rush has been non-existent this year. Hankins is kind of underrated, but he doesn't really offer much in the pass rush. And obviously Mo Hurst has been out a lot of the year this year. Malik Collins can go. He can obviously go. We don't need that contract. I think cornerback is a tricky one. I really like Trayvon Mullen. Damon Arnett, who knows? Who knows if he's even got the brain cells at this point? Joyner is a huge disappointment. The fact that we haven't tried him out for free safety kind of limits what we can do with him. I think you get rid of his contract next year and you live with Amik Robertson in that nickel role. Jonathan Abram, I think you got to treat him like a rookie this year. He's been infuriating to watch, but again, this is really his first season playing full-time starter snaps, and he is a difference maker when he's not being an asshole.
He's a difference maker one way or the other. He's either keeping drives alive or ending drives. Right? There's no middle ground with Abram. I think Gruden needs to have a rule: no stupid dye job haircuts, because the guys that have it keep getting hurt. You got Damon Arnett with like his fiery red like predator thing going on. He keeps concussing himself, and Jonathan Abram with his full bleached like 80s flat top, and he keeps getting hurt. I think that's the problem. I think all the hair dye is ruining our DBs.
Jonathan Abram plays like he's wearing an Affliction t-shirt under his pads.
A giant foily one from 2007?
Yes. Or an Ed Hardy t-shirt.
He's drinking nothing but vodka Red Bulls on the sideline.
Yeah. Oh, terrible.
Rhinestones and shit.
I think we have the personnel. I think this draft, there's no good reason why we wouldn't go heavy on defense. Mm-hmm. And we have to stop throwing picks away.
Well, there is one good reason, and that's because John Gruden sees somebody in college that he thinks is a grinder, and he says, nope, we're picking this guy 4th overall.
This guy loves football.
Yeah, this guy loves football. Yeah.
I love football too, Gruden. You want to pick me?
Maybe. Can you play defense? Can you play defensive tackle? We could use you. So rolling forward. All right, we got the loss today. Now 7-6, 3 games left on the season. Short week. Chargers come to town. They have a short little drive from LA to Vegas. Are we worried? Should we be worried? We barely squeaked by, and we won a coin flip game against them earlier in the season.
And I think we were playing a lot better defensively back then too.
Yeah.
And it just, that was us during a win streak. I think we were in the middle of a win streak. We won previously. We beat the Chargers, and we won the next game as well, I believe, unless I'm mistaken.
We beat the Browns, beat the Chargers, beat the Broncos, and then it was that like the best loss of our season when the Chiefs beat us 35-31.
Yeah, so I mean that was in the middle of us playing at our best. And that kid over there, man, I'm not going to say his name, but that kid over there can sling the ball. No, he's
a legit kid. Like he has
Yeah.
the same acne I did at 13.
Yeah, he's young, and he's got a golden arm, and he's not afraid to use it. He'll push the ball down the field, and his guys look for it. The receivers, the receivers and the tight ends, they look for him to throw him, even if they're if they're covered. He's like, okay, well, this guy doesn't give a shit. He's going to throw me the ball anyway, and I think it's going to be tough. They've laid a couple of eggs, recently, and I mean, who knows? I mean, have they given up on Lynn? Have they fully given up on him? That may be a saving grace for us to maybe, lick our wounds and have a bounce back game. But that was in the middle of our best stretch of the season, and we still needed an amazing defensive play to win.
I liked us this week against the Colts because the matchup made a lot of sense. I think, you look at it on paper and it made sense. We matched up really well with them across the board. We don't match up well against the Chargers at all. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I mean, they didn't have Austin Eckler last time we played them.
Yeah.
See what Hines and Taylor did to us today. If I was the Chargers looking at this game, I'd protect Justin Herbert. I wouldn't have him throw the ball at all. I'd just run it until we stop it because we haven't been able to stop it for 3 weeks.
I don't know why offenses ever stop running against us. Like the time when the Raiders kind of started getting back into the game was when they're just like, all right, we're gonna have Philip Rivers start throwing out of an empty backfield. They're like, what? Huh? Okay, great. Like, even though he's still like making completions, I'm like, oh, they're not gonna get an easy 8 yards every single time up the middle. Speaking of great quarterback play in the AFC West, did you guys see Drew Lock look like Patrick Mahomes against that Carolina defense?
I did.
Drew Lock went 21 of 27, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 149.5% quarterback rating. 0.5 quarterback rating. Dude, the Panthers made him look like Mahomes. So if Drew Lock is a good quarterback, the AFC West is just like a field of landmines all over the place for DBs. Like our DBs are just going to be picked apart like they're just like drones getting shot out of the sky.
Yeah.
I think you remember at the end of last year, the narrative in draft season was all about how do the Raiders keep pace with the Chiefs? How does the AFC West compete with the Chiefs? And the narrative was everyone has to get faster.
Mm-hmm.
So the Raiders obviously then went out and got Ruggs, and it really fit the narrative. We got Littleton. We got faster on both sides of the ball, and that was the whole spiel. I think the rest of the AFC West is so stacked now. If Drew Lock to me looks like he could easily be the next bust. I don't think he is that next great quarterback.
Me neither.
But their offense is stacked. Look at the weapons that they've surrounded him with.
Yeah.
It's crazy. If they get better play out of that offense, they're a legit team. Obviously, the Chargers roster is stacked top to bottom as well. They've been without Derwin James again all year this year. If he stays healthy for a year, that defense isn't giving up points like they are right now. Anthony Lynn's probably not going to last the year, so we're not going to get as many of those gimme games that they just seem to throw away for fun. It's not an easy division that we're in. We have to play really well to have a chance at the wild card, let alone win the division, right?
Yeah.
It's just more damning on the whole Paul Guenther side of things. 3 years of this shit, man.
Chiefs clinched the AFC West for the 5th straight time with their win today over the Dolphins. So yeah, we're just always fighting for wild cards in this scenario. Moving back to the LA Chargers, what changes do we need to make other than the obvious, right? Like we got to stop the run, we got to stop the turnovers, we got to wrap up. Like those are all the obvious ones, but like schematically wise, like you said, Herbert could just slice us apart. I mean, he's only going to get better as he gets more mature. The receivers are awesome. Their pass rush is great. Hopefully, I think that's the biggest thing. If our line, I was so disappointed with how poorly we ran the ball today. I mean, even with being game script negative, where we were behind for so long, we were forced to pass. I thought, oh, Trent Brown's back. We're going to move the ball, and Jacobs had a couple good runs. Booker had a couple good runs, but I thought, oh, we're going to have 185 yards. We're going to control the clock, play action off the top. I mean, we got to find that run game that we had in the opening, 6-7 weeks.
That's the biggest difference right now. Honestly, that's the biggest difference. When you look at our success offensively to start not only this year, but also last year, we were a run-first team. We ran to set up the pass. We imposed our will early in games, running behind the most expensive offensive line in the NFL, and that opened up the passing game for Derek Carr. It wasn't the other way around. It wasn't Derek Carr from the shotgun passing first, second, third down, trying to chase a game.
You know what I think we need to do defensively? We need to confuse Herbert. We need to disguise what we're doing a little bit more. Do a better job of disguising what we're doing. I mean, that
so you want Paul Guenther to flex a little bit. if we're banking on Paul Guenther on Thursday, we're so ruined.
Well, I mean, you asked, and I'm telling you, the whole league has him down. Phillip Rivers knew exactly what was going to happen, knew exactly what defense was called. That's why he audibled to that run play where Taylor just ran 62 yards untouched. And, we just got to do a better job of confusing him. He's more easily confused than Rivers is. He hasn't seen nearly as much, but we just don't have that. We just don't have the players to stay with their guys if they know what coverages we're running.
Here's what I'd do. I would sell out to stop the run. Prove that it's possible. Prove that, we can at least make them fairly one-dimensional and make a rookie quarterback beat us. What does that mean? It means playing more 3 linebacker sets. We've got 3 good linebackers now. Mm-hmm. They can all cover. They're all fast, good in cover type linebackers. So sell out to stop the run, make them a little bit more one-dimensional. And then one thing that Herbert does a lot, which, if you guys watched this specifically going into this game, whenever he sees one-on-one coverage outside, that's where they're checking into the deep shots to Mike Williams. It's a really easy mechanism of that offense that they built in for a rookie quarterback that he's being ruthlessly efficient with. So in general, they're not taking big deep shots unless they're getting that 1v1 look. Otherwise, it's just dink and dunk to Keenan Allen over the middle. And, they were actually doing pretty well against us with, I forget his first name, but Balaj, the running back. Mm-hmm. They signed that guy off the street. Kalen Balaj, yeah. He did pretty well against us. I think Austin Eckler is kind of our kryptonite as well. He's that small scat back, great in space, can run between the tackles, can run outside. If we can't stop the run, why would anyone stop running on us?
Yeah, give me a lot of free safety blitzes. I keep saying this. It could be a nice little run blitz, get a little pressure because they're not going to cover anyway. Just blitz them. Just they're not going to cover these guys anyway. Just cause a little stir some shit up. That's what I'm thinking.
So much of our defense is kind of trying to catch lightning, playing, calling the right play call at the right time, and if they get it wrong, it burns us. Mm-hmm. How many of the runs that you guys have seen have made it up to the 3rd level? What's going on with the front 7?
Well, considering that Abram had 14 tackles today, I'd say a lot of them. 14 tackles. When your free safety has 14 tackles, that's when they're getting up to that 3rd level every single time.
Yeah. Morrow, Littleton, Nick Kwiatkowski, go big and heavy up front. Be prepared for a screen game. Be prepared for that deep shot to Mike Williams on 1v1. So we can do. And then offensively, this is where, even if the season's lost, it doesn't mean Carr and this offense can't get meaningful reps in. So Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, Foster Moreau, let's see the future of this team that's going to carry us next year get some meaningful snaps and meaningful design plays, even if the season's done.
Damn. Are we already thinking that way? Already thinking, all right, let's get the young guys in there for experience instead of the best possible lineup?
These 3 games could not have gone any worse.
Yeah.
Could not have gone any worse, top to bottom.
All right. Well, like I said, we got a short week coming up on Thursday. No Wednesday podcast this week because we'll just do a post-game show after Raiders-Chargers on Thursday. It'll come out on Friday. All right. Before we get out of here, Soto, anything else you want to get to? Get off your chest?
No, I'm just going to eat.
Heat, as we call it? You're just going to heat? Rory?
No, I'm same boat, man. I'm going to go watch the post-game press conferences for more punishment. I want to see Gruden call some people out.
That would be nice. I hope they put Paul Guenther on that stand. Please, someone put a microphone in front of Paul Guenther. I gotta hear who he's gonna blame for this, because he's got a whole list, right? He's got like deep in his pocket, like he's brainstorming. Instead of drawing up plays, he's just making a list of who he can blame. Boys, well, that's it for us. We'll see you later on in the week, and until then, knock on wood if you're with me.